Hello folks, I'm Mr. Moth, and I'm bringing for you another 3 vs 3 in the Operation Market Garden mod for Company of Heroes. Today we are playing on Formigny, and on the axis we have Ashfall, Stormtrout, and Turbobolt, against on the allies Era, Brother Glacius, and Vaginator. So, we'll look at the units. For the Axis, Stormtrout is starting with a Sturmpanzer IV. This was buffed in the recent patch. It is much more accurate and can fairly reliably take out anti-tank guns now. So we'll see how he's able to make use of that to clear the way for his Panzerschreck troops. In the middle, we've got Ashfall starting with a Stug, as well as a bunch of infantry to back it up, including a Panzerschreck and a flamethrower. And then on the right, we've got Turbobolt starting with what looks like a defensive officer with a Panzerschreck. And he's got the new Lieutenant Aura that you can purchase for a defensive officer that was purchased in this patch, as well as some grenadiers and support weapons. Then over on the Axis side, this looks to me like a Pershing. And it is. We've got a Pershing from Era, escorted with some mechanized infantry, so that is one armored player. Then in the middle we've got Vaginator with a Churchill, so there is a Scots player. And then on the left we have a Greyhound from Brother Glacius, supported by mechanized infantry, so there's another armored player. A lot of armor from the allies this game. 2 armored players and a Scots Engineers. That's going to be going up against defensive. I don't know what doctrine gets the Sturmpanzer. Well, we'll just go. Here we are. So, Formigny is a map that I'm not overly familiar with, but I do know that this area here is kind of a pain in the rear end to fight over just because of how it's laid out. And aside from that, I expect a lot of the battle will either take place primarily on the left or primarily on the right, depending on how these companies match up with one another, just because of how the right side is so dense urban-wise. Seeing as how we have a lot of armor players, it'll really sort of depend on whether they want to try to make use of the open ground to overrun, or the tight area here to just sort of advance using shot binoculars like this Pershing is here. Of course, he is going to be going up against a bunch of... Excuse me, no, the Panzerschrecks are on the left, so this is just this one AT gun. And then the officer with the Panzerschreck. We do have an early button on the Sturmpanzer from Vaginator. It's getting a lot of free hits in from the Piats and the Churchill. Stormtrout, of course, has all of his Panzerschreck, so he's not going to be able to get away with this for free. And there's a big hit from the Brummbär on all of this infantry. Only kills one guy, but they are now heavily damaged. And they're going to be easy pickings for the rest of this infantry to clean up. And that Churchill is going to be 2 damage, showing its rear armor as it backs up to do anything. And it goes down. So, a bit of a sloppy play there from Vaginator, retreating, showing its rear armor instead of reversing out. Much like this Pershing is doing as well, taking a lot of rear armor hits. Wowee. What's going on over here on the allies? Hopefully this armored car isn't showing its rear armor. The Stug has gone down, I guess, to this anti-tank gun. Yeah, there's a tank kill on it. And then Pershing is just going to limp out. Well, that was a unique start, to be sure. Well done to Stormtrout, I suppose, salvaging his Sturmpanzer and taking advantage of the opening provided to him by his opponent. Sort of getting perhaps a little bit too aggressive and showing his rear armor. You can see here now in this latest patch that the vehicle crew repairs are reined in a bit. Vehicles move very slowly when self-healing for armor doctrine. So that is why Era has pulled this Pershing back to have it repair itself rather than have it do so in the fight. Here's the Brummbär on the machine gun. Machine gun is immediately decrewed. It's going to be a bit of a problem because as soon as all of this infantry from Stormtrout is unsuppressed, that's going to just be... Oh man, nice Panzerschreck sniper from Lieutenant 2. Going to be just free to push in. There's nothing really here to stop an infantry push. With just some injured infantry and a decrewed machine gun. So the Pershing is going to move over here to try to just sort of have a presence. But Era is in a bit of an awkward spot population-wise because he's lost one of his infantry squads. The other one is very damaged. He doesn't have enough population to bring on anything new. The Staghound from Vaginator is an interesting pick given that he just lost a Trototus from Panzerschrecks. It is a good crowd control unit, but as you can see here, it's a bit hit and miss as a counter to Panzerschrecks. We do have a medic bunker up now from Ashfall. So I'm wondering if he is... Oh, this Pershing is not doing great. I'm wondering if Ashfall is playing as defensive and he'll have a medic to put in here. I don't think we've seen a Doction from him yet. Or alternatively, perhaps he's playing as Terror and gets the improved Walking Wounded.
Enemy unit down.
At any rate, this mortar, the Allies have somehow managed to keep the Axis from overrunning this middle here, and this mortar is just picking up kills huddled around this bunker here. But Allies not setting up any healing yet at this point. They fix up any of these very injured squads that they have. There is some advanced repair on now from Vaginator. Some advanced repair sappers are going to be fixing up this Pershing, which it is sorely in need of. It's only use of its advanced repair. Some mines down as well from Era. Hopefully he doesn't back over that. There's a half-track, just a regular half-track with 2 guys in it. Wonder what that is. It's certainly not a sniper, which is what you usually see half-tracks for. Lots of mines from Era, it seems. This is just a dedicated repair platoon, it seems. Just 3 advanced repair engineers. Now, I get why some players do this, because, you know, oh, I have this tank on, I want to get it fixed, but the problem is this is 9 population that is going to be doing nothing but laying mines, which he's doing now, and repairing. They can't really fight, which means this Pershing is going to be relying very heavily on his allies, 1, to just sort of hold the map while he's repairing, and 2, once it's done, unless the allies are able to get more population in the meantime, help the tank fight, because Era's not really going to have any other units to fight with. You do see he is perhaps a little bit wisely moving over to the right just a little bit, just so that while he's repairing, he is contesting this territory, which Turbobalt is in the process of attempting to capture. So the game is slowing down a little bit while the Axis is letting the Allies lick their wounds a bit. The Axis doesn't really have anything that they need to repair. They do have the map advantage at the moment, but they know that there's a Pershing on the field. I don't know if they know that there's advanced repair, but it's, I mean, going up against the players that they're going up against, it's a pretty safe bet from their position. The complication is if they want to try to attack, Era has bought them some time with a little bit of luck by placing just a whole bunch of mines all over the place, leading to situations like this where this Brummbär has run into a mine and now it has to stop the repair. Greyhound goes down, I guess to the mortar? Because I see a casualty here on this mortar guy. I suspect maybe there was a mortar that just came in.
Enemy unit down.
Alright, the Pershing's all fixed up. And Era is going to use his engineers to fight, which, you know, these things are cheap. These are not nearly as expensive as a British advanced repair sapper. They're basically doctrinal, they just come with the upgrade for free. So that's good. He's at the very least screening. These guys aren't going to be doing a lot of killing, but at least he's not running the Pershing in blind. That said, if he wants to actually start doing things with this Pershing, he's going to need more than just the engineers. His teammates are going to need to get into this as well. You can see now that the Axis, using a lot of their Panzerschreck infantry, have decided that they want to use the advantage, since they have sort of won the early engagements, especially on this right side. They want to just dig into this town. Which is going to let them use these buildings to just sort of pop in and out, use their Panzerschrecks for ambush hits, on this Pershing. Now, the Pershing is going to be able to use these buildings in turn to do things like block line of sight to make this pack more difficult to use. But I think overall this is definitely an advantageous position for the Axis to be in, and the Allies are going to have to really sort of make a combined effort to thwart this AT gun and all these Panzerschrecks for the Pershing, if the Pershing is going to be their breakthrough unit.
Enemy unit down.
Because at the moment, all the Allies are doing are just making little skirmishes that are not trading favorably for them. They are losing a lot more health than they deal in damage to the enemy every time they pop a unit up like this, shoot, and then risk a anti-tank gun or Panzerschreck shot in retaliation. There's a healing station up now from the Axis from Stormtrout. He has made a forward HQ here, so don't see any healing for the... here we go. Here's a CCS from Vaginator. But really, the units that seem to be getting the most action right now, more than anything else, are the mortars. So there are mortars from each side that are just sort of hammering this contested zone in the middle here. I'm going to speed the thing up just a little bit because there's not a whole lot going on right now. We'll slow it down again when team decides to get brave. Ooh, like maybe this. Here we go. One more shot could take this AT gun down, and it does. The officer is going in with the Panzerschreck, but Era is fully committed now. He needs to get his teammates in here to help him out. Otherwise, he's just going to be backing out, and we gotta see Glacius in here with the 57 to back up against the Stu. This 105, interesting. Glacius has a 105 Sherman. I'm personally not a big fan of these. They are variable, but he might be about to get some great kills with it here if it works in his favor. He might be able to knock down this building with the officer inside, but he does not get anything.
Enemy unit.
Arm with the 105, it has a fairly quick cooldown, but it doesn't have any really field presence at all besides the machine gun. So, on the one hand, the 105, if it works well, could be a useful tool to clear the way for the Pershing against the AT gun. But that still leaves the problem of all of the Panzerschrecks that the Axis are very comfortably sitting on. They're very cost-efficient units for Stormtrout because they can fix his Sturmpanzer. And that is a definite advantage that he has with his sort of field composition right now that Era does not. His repair units are dedicated units that can't really fight very well. I'm really wondering what this pack is trying to do, though. Besides getting itself flanked out. It's not the same pack before, is it? I guess it is. That's right, it was decruit and recruit. So here's another barrage from the 105 Sherman, I think. Oh, these Panzerschrecks are just brutal. Okay, here comes the decrew on the pack gun. Let's see if Brother Lacius is able to take it, because if he's able to steal that, that would be a huge boon. Just so that it's one less thing for the Pershing to deal with. But it doesn't look like he's going to, which I don't like to see. Why bother decrewing it if you're just going to leave it there? At the very least, go back over and destroy it. I realize that the pack gun is sort of countered by the Brummbär, but a Pershing can very easily make that sort of too cost ineffective to try to use the Brummbär on if you use them together. And it's just a really good way to sort of guarantee that the enemy can't use it anymore, is by having it yourself. And then once you've dealt with a Brummbär, then that's a huge asset of yours to get through things like heavy armor. But they waited too long. Both sides decided they didn't really want it and were just trying to destroy it, so that by the time someone decided they wanted it, it was too low on health. Do have a machine gun bunker and a machine gun in a building from Brother Glacius, so this side on the left is thoroughly locked down to infantry. I did see a 17-pounder in here in the middle. I don't know what happened to that, but there's a 57 mm AT gun as well. So the Allies definitely are sitting pretty on the left, but it is on this side of the halfway point on the map, and you can see because the Axis have the town and then some, they have for a while now been sitting on a very comfortable population gain lead, and that has netted them +2, which in this early stage of the game, when population gain is not very quick, it's, well, if the allies aren't able to change something soon, well, let's see how it plays out, I suppose. I did see another Staghound come on, which I am not a giant fan of, Vaginator. The one that you already have, you're having a hard time keeping repaired to begin with. Anyway, Pershing might be about to finish off the Sturmpanzer. You're committed at this point, man. Just go for it. Whoa, man. Some nasty hits on the side there. I suspect Vajra's trying to help out with a button, but oh no, the friendly fire. That's rough.
Enemy unit down.
Alright, Mr. 105, what are you doing? Well, there's that building. Officer wasn't in it this time, but at least that's one less thing for the enemy to jump in and out of with Panzerschrecks. Almost got the officer too, but he's going to limp away with 3 health to the healing half-track. So it seems like the Axis are getting a little bit bored, and they've decided they want to be on the attack now. They see that they've almost killed the Pershing. We've got an opportunity to get some good hits in on the 105 as well.
Enemy unit down.
There's a Stu decrewing an AT gun as well. So lots of assault guns for the Axis just to clear the way for the infantry. This is an interesting strategy which I like. They have basically waited for the Allies to whittle away the health on their tanks, throwing themselves upon the spike with inefficient attacks. And now that they have done this, they're just using their assault guns to decrew anti-tank,
Enemy unit down.
which will then let them advance using their assault guns and their anti-tank infantry together. Now, Era might complicate this a little bit with his sniper. We have seen a number of one-man squads, especially from whoever the red player is, Stormtrout. And all of these are at risk of dropping a Panzerschreck with a well-timed snipe. But for the time being, it does seem as though Ashfall and Turbo Ball together have pushed the Allies off of their hill and destroyed this machine gun emplacement, and now have thorough control over this area. The Sherman Firefly from Vaginator is another very interesting choice, given the really heavy amount of anti-tank the Axis are fielding, and the difficult time that the Allies are having keeping their vehicles that they already have repaired. I think, would have liked to see infantry from Vaginator. All of his Staghounds that he's had so far have really not come to very much. I mean, the counter to Panzerschrecks is not more tanks, really, especially a Firefly, which is a dedicated anti-vehicle unit. I am afraid to speculate, actually, that Vaginator might be out of anti-tank, or at the very least running low on it, because he had a 17-pounder which he lost. And 17-pounders are very expensive. But he did manage to take out the pack gun, so that paid off a little bit better than I expected it to. Now with all of these AT guns, the Allies are certainly doing just fine in the anti-tank department, so whenever that Sturmpanzer decides to show up again, well, it will rue the day, but the Sturmpanzer is not going to be showing up anytime soon. The main thing that they still have to deal with is all this infantry. That's the main tool that the Axis are using and have been using, is infantry. And the Firefly is just not a good counter to that. As you can see here, they're just running in, virtually unopposed. Right, the sniper is going to pick away at them. The 105's machine gun is going to pick away at them. But realistically, you know, one good tread break from this thing could kill the Pershing. Because the Pershing has got 0 health. All you need is a crit. I'm pretty sure the tread break mechanically is an automatic crit. And that's the only thing here that's really killing any of this infantry. besides, of course, the sniper. But it seems as though this was a big play from the Axis to try to steal away some of these AT guns. But it was not a full commit from all of their players. You know, if they'd been able to bring in the Sturmpanzer to assist with this at the same time, I feel like maybe that would have been a big help. You know, even if they just sort of got a hit on the Sturmpanzer on the Pershing, that might have finished it off. But it seems as though this gambit didn't work out. Axis took a lot of casualties for that, including some Ostfronts, which are not cheap. Hopefully the Allies will take a lesson from that and beef up their anti-infantry defenses. They do have a machine gun now from Era, so that ought to help. And I guess now it's time to counterattack if the Allies want to back up Brother Glacius with his attack here. It looks like they're not going to, because they see this AT gun and then they get scared. Here comes a Firefly. Mayhaps going for the Walking Stuka, okay. There goes the Pershing. Nice Walking Stuka barrage, actually.
Enemy unit down.
Vaginator desperately trying to destroy the half-track transport for the enemy sniper, but he's just sitting in front of an AT gun, hoping that his units decrew the AT gun for the AT gun kills his Firefly, and they do manage to do that. But with the pathfinding here, it looks like the half-track is going to get away, doesn't want to aggress too much further. Looks like we got a tread break on the 105, which is inconvenient, but not necessarily the end of the world. And there is a Hummel now on, speaking of artillery, from Stormtrout. So Axis fairly comfortable in their position so far. They're now up to 45 ahead of the Allies. Feel like it is a safe time to bring on artillery, and to be honest, I certainly agree with them. Because this is one avenue they're going to be able to use, potentially if they get lucky to kill the sniper, and if nothing else, to just whittle down the Allies. Kill their key units that will let them push in. This might be a mortar that's being stolen right here. It looks like it because there's a rifleman. It's a nice little win. Nice hit on the Brummbär. This thing's been repaired a lot. You can see it's down to a pretty low amount of health. Is he gonna get it? He got it. Well, that would have been soaking up a huge amount of pop to get fixed up anyway. I mean, saying that, I mean, the Axis have pretty solid repairs as we have seen, but primarily it's Stormtrout's tank buster squads that have been the repair units, and they've been dedicated to the Sturmpanzer, so losing that probably not the end of the world. A little bit sloppy, for sure, but not something that I don't think the Axis can bounce back from. So here's an artillery barrage over on the right. It's the Hummel, or the Sturmpanzer. Goodness, there are many units on. Quad 50 from Brother Glacius. I like this. This is an interesting unit to buff up this mechanized infantry. This is a very dangerous anti-infantry call-in that he has right here. A bunch of mechanized infantry with a quad. Well, once to get out of this building, though, he set up a booby trap. He's going to lose all this mech infantry now. The enemy sniper has revealed itself from Turbo Bolt. He's just going to stay in there and take the damage. Oh, Turbo Bolt. Playing it risky here, bud. That is certainly going to go down. Yes, it does. I suspect that had to have been an accident. There's no way he deliberately did a snipe there with enemy on. Perhaps he just wasn't paying attention. I'm very surprised by the Glacius' infantry didn't die to that. Booby traps can be extremely dangerous. But with that sniper out of the way... Ooh. With that sniper out of the way, Ares is going to be free to be a little bit more aggressive now. I don't know what came of Ashfall's sniper. Because I believe he had one, didn't he? He still has the half-track. But either way, this 88 from Turbobalt is going to be a problem, and the sniper is going to be a big asset to try to deal with it. So the Allies are definitely going to want to try to keep that alive.
Our forces are taking casualties.
Looks like we have a repair bunker now from the Axis as well. Whoa, speaking of bunkers, we have several bunkers. This is Fortress Europe over here. We have a mortar bunker that is providing sort of indirect support to protect the 88 and vice versa, as well as an MG42 bunker and the Hummel. This is definitely going to be a problem for the Allies this game. Really sort of rendering this Firefly kind of a waste of pop right now.
Squad reporting casualties.
It sounded like a mortar that just got decrewed. Maybe to a counter battery. 20 kills though on Aero Sniper, so he's definitely not letting up there, which you like to see. Oh, a Calliope. I have not seen one of these in a while. Let's see if it does something useful. Not really. It damaged the crew on the 88, and it could be finished off reasonably easily with a concentrated push. One good snipe would kill off one of the guys, in fact. But it looks like Hera is just going to lead the charge. You want to see his teammates back him up. There's a grenade on the 88, and the 88 is decrewed. But where's the backup? That Firefly is just sort of back here repairing instead of participating on account of this AT gun here, even though if he came around this way, he would be fine. And now that 88 is just going to get decrewed, or recrewed, I should say, and Era is just going to take a lot of casualties in this expensive mechanized infantry for not a whole lot. Yeah. The sniper is going to run off, though. Didn't see this here. Uh-oh. Here's the counterattack, big time. Did not see that rush from Stormtrout. Nicely done, Stormtrout. So, for lack of a sniper to spot for, the Jeeps are instead going to be used to decrew this AT gun. Hopefully, the Allies will be able to make use of it.
Enemy unit.
Because right now, there's just sort of a lot of piecemeal attacks that are decrewing assets, but not really taking advantage of it. I like this. So they've gone and decrewed the AT gun with the goal of actually stealing it. They need to get this out of here as soon as they can. We need to see these Jeeps push around this infantry. Oh, it doesn't matter. They're just going to deny it with some sort of artillery barrage. I think that's what that was. The Hummel is idle. I don't really know what that was. At any rate, it seems to me that the Allies are just not able to really make the magic come together. They're making all sorts of little half-hearted attacks here and there, but nothing coordinated as a team. Never really bringing on just the right units, I feel like, in a lot of these situations. And to compensate for it, of course, Era has this magnificent back cap going on here, which has bought his team the opportunity to get up to 40 pop. So nicely done there. Is going to, of course, get found by Ashfall. But that is going to give the Allies a little bit of breathing room to call on a whole set of reinforcements here in the aftermath of that disaster. Which is going to be something that I really hope for their sake that they take advantage of. That's very silly to watch as a tank wreckage. Because now that that back cap has been stopped, it's going to capture all the way back up to the front line again. Very likely this sector is going to turn red, if not neutral. Okay, it's going to stay blue for the time being, but the Allied hold on it is tenuous. And with this being the way that it is not going to take much to make the Axis start bleeding the Allies of pop again. 22 kills on this Sturmpanzer. Look how much it's been repaired. It's really hurting for health right now, but it's been really paying for itself as well. Just needs to be careful doing things like that. It doesn't really have the health left to make dives for using the machine gun like that. So we've got a Stugon from Ashfall, which is an interesting choice. I know there's been a lot of 57s lately. I feel like the Axis have been trying to make that not the case, but it's an unfortunate matchup against this 17-pounder here, as well as this Sherman. The two together, not super great. So let's see if the Allies try to make a move over here, because they've been bashing their head against the wall with this town. It's just not working out. You see there's a bunker over here. There was an officer in the bunker. I don't know where that officer went, but there was an officer with a machine gun in the bunker, and the thing about defensive is there is an ability that you can get that Turbobolt surely has if he's doing the strategy that lets you get extra health for bunkers, and also extra accuracy for infantry if they sit in bunkers for a long time. So that officer with the machine gun would actually have been fairly dangerous, but it's not relevant now because the Allies are making an attack on the right here. An artillery barrage doing a lot of damage, almost decrewing the 17-pounder, but not quite. Just going to let the Sherman just continue to advance, free of enemy anti-tank, really. Because the Stug does not match up great against the Sherman. These two things shooting at each other's frontal armor really just bounce most things. Except for the Crocodile against the Stug as well. But what they're doing is they're basically just sort of circumventing this 88, which is really what they need to do. So I like that they've recognized this. Problem is they're sort of at the end of their reinforcement lane here, because the rest of their units just all the way in the back. Hera. Units are all the way in the back. And as soon as the Axis recognizes that the Allies are really just not all together and that the right side is completely unprotected, the Axis are definitely running the risk of, the Allies are running the risk of just sort of letting themselves get surrounded.
Enemy unit down.
I mean, that might be why nobody is really supporting this as much as they maybe should.
Tally-ho, we're good to go.
There's 3 vehicles here. An AT gun that's almost dead. Oh man, my $5 says this gets turned over. You'd like to see this come back and heal and be replaced by the 57 on that and have other stuff come up. Because basically the decision the Axis faces right now is this. Either do what they're doing right now, which is recognize that there's nothing defending anything on the map and just push hard on the right. Or move and deal with this attack on the left. The thing is, that is the situation normally. The reality is, the Allies are not actually really supporting this attack with anything. It's just vehicles. They've got other units, they're just sitting around. And so, because of that, the Allies are not really using their full force. The Axis can do both. They can just push in one area and stop this attack with the others. The Allies have gone around the 88, and they've taken down this Stug, but there's only so long an attack like this can last before it gets overwhelmed. Here come the Panzerschrecks, right? And the thing is, here we go. Okay, I was about to say, the thing is the Allies aren't really doing anything to take advantage of the chaos that they are sowing. They have now just taken out this 88. You want to see them take all this stuff and move forward now. They've only almost taken out this bunker, right? They've taken out the 88. The Axis are really kind of in disarray right now. You've destroyed some assets. Now is your moment to move up and take this. Alright, they've destroyed the bunker with the officer in it, so that sucks for Turbobolt. And well done. You see the sort of lack of reaction from the Axis, right? Because the Allies have just done this crazy thing that they weren't expecting. And so what you need to do is follow it up with this kind of thing that they're doing now, but at the same time. If they'd done that, they've done sort of a pincer, armor in the back, infantry, and support weapons in the front. This could have been devastating. Because you could just see how slow the Axis were to react once things started going down. If they had attacked like this at the same time, that could have been golden. but it looks like, at the very least, they were able to take out the two biggest key problems here. Just would have liked to see a little bit more. Now there's a Panzer from Turbo Ball that is going to be an obstacle for this Churchill. There is, of course, this AT gun from Era that is going to be a problem for this Panzer IV, but a good hit from the Brummbär will just decrew that in one hit. But instead the Brummbär is going for this infantry, and he gets the Jeep. There goes the machine gun bunker. So, in their own way, the Allies are slowly peeling back the curtain here, peeling the layers of the onion, as it were. And this crocodile, which is still in the back, has found the Brummbär and the walking Stuka. It's taken out the walking Stuka. This is some very interesting place for the Allies that I feel like are working a little bit better than they should. Oh my goodness, Vaginator. That man had a family. Oh my goodness, this crocodile is just going crazy with no health left. Alright, it does go down, but the Allies have broken through now. And they're just working on demolishing these bunkers one by one. Ashfall did manage to steal this AT gun, but one good hit from the sniper will turn it back over to the Allies. Here's an artillery barrage. I think this is the 105 Sherman. What is that? Oh, a 25 pounder. Interesting. Yeah, so there's that decrude. A 25 pounder from somebody who's not playing as Canadian artillery is certainly interesting. Well, I was pleasantly surprised that that worked out how it did. It was a little bit piecemeal, but I appreciated that the Allies decided to make their own opening. They recognized that what they were doing wasn't working and decided to try something bold and different. I feel like it could have been done a little bit better, but, I mean, hey, they knocked out this huge obstacle that really easily could have just shut down the rest of the entire game. So, I will hand that to them. Well done. We will check here real quick how everyone's doing in population after that, because that is really going to tell us what the actual state of the game is, right? So Stormtrout has a good amount of stuff left. He's got 6 platoons in reserve, 11 out of 17. And Turbo Ball, perhaps doing a little bit less, but he has some stuff in reserve as well, 13 out of 16. Nice AT gun hit. Here's another Pershing. Nice barrage from the Calliope. Decrews the AT gun. Well, let's see this Pershing do something. What's the other Axis player? Orange. Not seeing a lot of orange. Is Ashfall out of units? There he is, 19 out of 19. Ashfall is all on field with a single Grenadier, actually. So it looks like Ashfall has been really sort of doing the brunt of the fighting here. And then on the Allies, while they are just pushing in with all these armored vehicles, finding holes in the lines, having decrewed this. Right. Over here for air, we're looking at 12 out of 19. Bashi is 14 out of 16. So the Allies still have some stuff left. What are we looking at for?
Enemy unit.
Alright, and then engineers are all on field. So, both sides a bit asymmetrically low on units. Some players have lots left, some players have none. As a matter of fact, compared to Ashfall's lone Volksgrenadier man, or Grenadier man and repair bunker, Vaginator just has this infantry section and an artillery piece, and this infantry section. So both of these players are effectively out, except for a couple key assets. Alright, so, some moderately successful pushing from the Allies while all that was going on. I feel like if the Allies can just focus on controlling the anti-tank for this battle, as bad of a position that they've been in, they definitely still have a chance. Because they've cracked this nut here. Oh, but this AT is just going to get free hits on this Sherman from Brother Glacius. There that goes. Still, the Axis definitely are on the back foot, and you can see it because they've just been slowly ceding ground here as these skirmish attacks from allied armor just comes in, deals a lot of damage, and then backs out, or in the case of that Sherman, is thwarted. But, like, there's no... To dominate this game, the Axis have been using infantry with Panzerschrecks, and then this little Doom Fortress that is no longer here. And we have some new infantry with Panzerschrecks now from Stormtrout, but really, you look at the map, they're looking a lot thinner now than they were before. I like this scout from Era. Let's see what he finds. And furthermore, the Axis are definitely losing their bunkers as well that they've been using to support themselves, right? They lost the machine gun bunker, they lost the medic bunker. They're in danger of losing this bunker here. I wonder if this Greyhound has taken hold, which is the armor capping thing. I suspect that it might, which, if that is the case, it's not going to be capturing anything here. This patch, the taken hold that let light vehicles capture was taken away from Jeeps, so if you want to do that as armor, you have to have a Greyhound or a half-track or something now. Use the Calliope. This is another problem for the Axis for sure. Calliopes are not great by any stretch of the imagination, but they're dealing with a Calliope and a 25-pounder compared to their nothing. The Allies have gone and taken out all of the anti-tank, excuse me, the artillery for the Axis. They've killed the Wakansuken, they've killed the Hummel. And so, in the position that the Axis are in now, it is now them that needs to attack rather than sit comfortably. And that is going to get that much more difficult now that this Sturmpanzer, that has been really the sort of spearhead of all of the Axis attacks, decrewing key units, has been taken down by an anti-tank gun. Now Ashfall has lost his little grenadier men. The Allies are aware that the Axis are playing one man down. We want to see them get a little bit more aggressive here, because they know they have the advantage. They just need to bleed the... Well, they can do one of two things. They can try to either bleed the Axis off now that they know they have the advantage, or they can just try to definitively push them off because they know they have a numerical advantage. Oh no, this poor sniper man. Oh no. Well, there it goes. I feel like he might have been able to get away with it, because these guys' sprint, as you can see here, is followed up by a period where they cannot run. And if this Greyhound had gotten in here at the same time, I feel like he would have been fine. I think it was definitely worth risking. I know Vet 2 on a sniper hurts to lose, but in a game that's coming down this to the wire... How do words work? A game that's coming this close down to the wire. You're going to need every attrition tool you can get. And with that in mind, this medic with the machine gun from Turbobolt is certainly going to be an interesting unit if he can keep it alive, because it's going to afford a level of sort of unit survivability for him that oftentimes you don't really have as Wehrmacht in this stage of the game. The Axis have now taken down this howitzer using their Panzerschrecks and this AT gun that they captured earlier, and we now have a new Sturmpanzer on from Stormtrout. Now this is a bit of a game changer. I didn't expect him to have more than one of these, because that's a big fuel investment for such a specialized unit. But you can see he's really decided that it is worth the money with the changes in this patch, how it can just one-hit kill an anti-tank unit. And so, with that in mind, that's definitely going to make his teammates' life a bit easier, Turbobolt with his Panzer IV, as well as all of these light armor cars, which are another unit that you can use to decrew AT guns by flanking around the back. So the Axis, even though they are down, they're definitely, I don't think, out at this point. They definitely have the key units that they need to pull this one out. The biggest obstacle they're going to have to deal with is this Pershing. And the Pershing is very damaged. So some smart plays could let them take it out, but they're definitely going to want to get all of their units focused. Oh goodness. This might be it right here. There it goes. There's the Pershing. I think the Axis probably have this one. What do the Allies have left for anti-tank? I don't think they have anything. That said, Era has a lot of stuff in reserve. He's got 4 platoons left. The Allies are down to 30 population now, 32. They're giving up ground very rapidly. Now, I like this. Era has found these AT guns, and he's going to use his mechanized infantry to recrew them. These are very sturdy squads. They're expensive squads with the upgrades, but they're not terribly expensive. And the squads themselves, I think they are like Panzer Grenadiers in terms of health. Problem is, this one doesn't want to seem to hit. Stationary units. Now he's going to lose it. Uh-oh. It might have been wise retroactively, and I will not fault him for this, because, you know, it is easy to judge somebody for something they did in haste. But perhaps it might have been better to use one of the mechanized infantry squads to protect the other AT gun. But at the same time, like with all of these armored vehicles, really it's just a difficult situation. Because if you only have one, well, then the armored vehicles just flank around the one. But if you put all of your infantry on one, then you have nothing to protect against infantry. It's really just sort of a difficult situation for the Allies right now. So this is really going to come down to what exactly the Allies have left to deal with all this stuff, because right now they're just losing a lot of units. Alright, they have managed to get a whole bunch of these AT guns now. And they're going to want to make extremely efficient use of them, because this Brummbär is just going to decrew them if it's allowed to. And it looks like it's going to do it now. He's going to have to move this quickly, but instead he's turning it around. There goes that crew. Stormtrout has just been dominating with these Brummbärs, but I think that's sort of priority target number 1 for the Allies right now, and he's going to want to be more careful with it. So here goes all of that infantry from Turbobolt. He's down to just this Panzer IV now, but he does have some other units in reserve, and they do have 40 pop now. Uh-oh, here goes the Brummbär, who's going to go down to the Greyhound. Uh-oh, but the main gun on the AT gun, or the main gun on the Greyhound goes down to the AT gun, so that's that down. The Brummbär is safe for now. It's very unlikely that these quad 50s are going to be able to deal with that, especially with an AT gun there, right? Some lucky hits in the rear armor maybe, but... Alright, here's a sniper from Brother Glacius as well. Going to try to stop these Ostfronts who are trying to decrew these AT guns. This is really what it comes down to, is infantry to cap and decrew AT guns to clear the way for all the other vehicles. These are decrewed. The Allies don't have anything left to actually capture these AT guns. That might have been it.
Enemy unit down.
It's an expensive unit to use for something like that, but the Allies, excuse me, the Axis have a unit left to cap with. Glacius just has this engineer, which cannot crew anything anymore. But we've got more mechanized infantry on from Era. This really, I think, could still go either way. Nice hit with the AT gun, but the other quad is going to get around the back, and this Sturmpanzer is on cooldown. So the Panzer IV is going to try to get in here to put a stop to this. Very sneaky. Nicely played from Era. Now's the moment that they need to move in. What do they have? They've got bazookas on mechanized infantry. They've got some decrewed AT guns here, which they can crew. What do the Axis have? They've got a whole bunch of Volks. That's not a bad thing to have at this stage, to be honest. The repair units. A Vampire half-track. Oh, nice hit. Now that all these are recrewed, this is going to be a very big problem, because the Sturmpanzer is very wounded. It cannot take another hit. Does not have very good armor. Just has Panzer IV armor, I believe. I mean, it's a Panzer IV chassis, but either way, it's not a very tanky unit. Axis not without their own anti-tank. There's a pack gun here that they have crewed, and the Allies are aware of that now. We've seen it. We just need Stormtrout to have some sort of scouting for his Sturmpanzer so that he doesn't walk it into AT guns, or take advantage of things like this. This might destroy the gun, and it does. So that's one AT gun gone for the Allies. There's a new healing station for Era. Very late game healing station, which he can use to try to repair these AT guns, because healing stations do repair AT guns slowly over time. Not sure if that's a bug, but at this point, it's definitely a feature. I don't think that's a thing that's ever going to change.
What are my coordinates?
Yeah, you can see this gun inside the healing radius here, very slowly ticking up. All right.
Just give me a rifle, one round, and put me in Berlin.
Going to speed us up here just a little bit. To the next time, once they finish licking their wounds here. Ooh, what's this? Jeeps.
Recon on point.
Jeeps can be a very powerful unit at this stage in the game because you can use them to decrew weapons, you can use them to scout and find the lone enemy units, you can use them to stop backcapping, you can use them to block pathing on heavier vehicles like this Panzer IV. I'm very interested to see what Era manages to do with these Jeeps, if anything. Dropped a bazooka. Alright, Era is all on field with this last unit that he's calling in. Gracious, of course, is also all on field. As is Turbobolt. And Stormtrout. Everyone is all on field, so once this last unit hits the field, that's what we're going to be working with. Really sort of bad trade here, obviously, losing this mechanized infantry and dropping the bazooka too. Mechanized infantry are extremely powerful units for this kind of situation because you have a healing station up. Mechanized infantry are very beefy units that can take a lot of damage and then heal all that damage back to full. They're very good bazooka platforms because they're resistant to suppression and just have a whole lot of general survivability buffs when they're near vehicles. That's exactly what you want when you're dealing with things like a Brummbär or a Panzer IV. Alright, so here's the sniper. The sniper for Brother Glacius is really going to be key at this stage because the main anti-tank that the Axis have is this pack gun. This Panzer IV, of course, is a strong unit for dealing with lighter vehicles, but it's not going to do anything against these AT guns. So it's going to be really imperative that the Axis maintain control of this AT gun. And with the sniper on the field, unless they find a way to counter it, that's going to be very difficult. And the sniper's going to be able to just whittle down anything that they could conceivably use to crew this AT gun, and once that happens, then it's probably game over for the Axis, so they need to recognize this and figure out what it is that they're going to do before that happens. The Axis is the one that's on the time clock right now. Those booby traps still definitely paying off. Alright, so it looks like the Jeeps for now are mainly just going to be sort of keeping an eye on the armored vehicles and scouting for the sniper. Which is definitely a good use. You always like to... It's great. It's a very luxurious thing when you're the one using the sniper to have a teammate who's using Jeeps, but the sniper goes down to the Sturmpanzer. Nice hit from Stormtrout. Blind shot, just sort of guesstimating where the sniper would be, hits it square on the money. Alright, well, that's how they've dealt with that. So the Allies, they see now they're not going to be able to attrition this anymore. They've lost their main attrition tool, they just need to push. So, Era is just using his half-tracks and his AT guns to just sort of move up as a wall, cover all these lanes so that they can't be flanked out, have the AT guns cover each other. The sight line here is awkward for sure, but he's making up for it just by sheer volume. Still have this AT gun to contend with, but the Calliope is also still on the field. It's going to do a lot of damage to these guys. Uh-oh.
Enemy unit down.
Inflicted a few casualties there. Not too many. But 21 kills in the Calliope is certainly not too bad for a Calliope. Calliopes are very inconsistent.
Roger.
This is very amusing to me. This really just sort of, it's come down to, more than anything else, a battle between support units. Right, units that you usually use to augment the attack is really most of what's left. Jeeps, engineers, quads, half-tracks, Brummbär. The main thing is the Panzer IV, but the Panzer IV is almost dead. But the Allies have definitely not forgotten to backcap and get a population advantage. They figure, well, this might come down to the deathmatch, but you certainly want to secure your victory in any way that you can. So capping up the back of the field is a great way to do that, because you do things like force the enemy to split up to try to deal with it. And if they don't, then you just win. Or you put them in a very difficult spot because all of a sudden they find themselves in a loss condition that they need to address on short notice. Which is what they're going to do now. They're sending a lot of units to address this back up because they don't know what's back there. They don't have any scouting like the Allies do. And Brother Glacius has very wisely dedicated a half-track to this capping unit, so he can easily just move around the battlefield and get him out when he needs to. The issue is, this Panzer IV, I'm not sure what is faster. Oh man. I don't think Brother Glacius actually knows just how close this half-track came to certain destruction. Might not be away just yet. No, they didn't see each other. So the Axis have come in. They have stopped this back cap. Brother Glacius has decided to bail because he doesn't have many units left. And I don't know if the Allies realize that the Axis have all but abandoned the town to chase this one half-track that they don't really know the identity of. Here it is. Okay, they see the Panzer IV here. It's kind of hit full reverse, try to get back to this AT gun. They see the Brummbär. You wanna, alright, so here's the power of Jeeps, right? Arrow is now going to use these Jeeps to try to recon out the town. And if he does this quickly, he'll recognize that the Axis have just abandoned the town. Going to use them to just continue fighting. That's fair enough, I suppose. I'm going to speed this up a little bit again, folks. I think these engagements can be watched at double speed here, because they're pretty slow. Alright, here comes the AT gun. But it's been revealed by the Jeep. He sees it. He's going to have to back it up. And good play bringing these Jeeps around the back could decrew that at the worst possible moment. Alright, here comes the Calliope. AT gun is decrewed. Now is your moment, people. You know you've shot this Panzer IV to bits. Rather surprised Sturmschaub managed to keep this Sturmpanzer alive with all that he was going up against. Came very close to dying a couple times. Alright, AT gun is recrewed, but it's been found by the Jeep. And decrewed again by the quad. And if the Axis cannot maintain control of that AT gun, I think that's going to be game, because they don't really have anything that can fight all of these light vehicles besides the Panzer IV. The Panzer IV cannot fight in the face of all these AT guns. Yep. This is, I think, surely an Allied game at this point.
Engineer unit lost.
Didn't see if he got that off, but I think it's kind of redundant at this point. Yeah, the Axis are just out of stuff. They have these two key units here, but I think it's really only a matter of time before an AT gun picks off this Panzer IV. And while all this is going on, the Allies are free to just go capture. This is very funny. This is a very silly ballad of... Oh man, Calliope claims the Brummbär. Yeah, without the Brummbär, there's no way this Panzer IV can do anything, so that's the game. We'll go ahead and speed this the rest of the way up. And there goes the Panzer IV. Oh man, what a game. Props to both sides for not giving up when their teammates were wiped out. It really just came down to a 2v2, a very funky 2v2 with some asymmetrical units. Very interesting. I liked this game. I appreciated the allies were able to clear this out, even if the way that they did it was a little bit ungraceful. And that, I think, finding the way to do that was the gateway that let them do the rest of the game. That and their backcapping. Nice Sturmpanzer. Overall, very interesting. So that was this game, folks. I will see you in the next one.